and they are very compelling, each one. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Karen Schulte, who is the Superintendent of Janesville School District, and Bill Sodemann, who is the Chair of the School Board. Thank you.
Thank you. Before they get started, let me just say, Janesville, the School District of Janesville is our longest standing partner, and a little bit they were our guinea pigs. So it's been, Superintendent Schulte came in as a new superintendent, and from very beginning of her career as a superintendent started with the evidence-based leadership. And so what you'll hear from, and you also had a board chair who has really been very instrumental in supporting that. So you'll really hear about the 4-year journey and where their advancement has been over those 4 years. Thank you all.
Thank you. Is this right volume? Hi, it's Bill Sodemann, and I've been called worse as a board. In my normal life, I own a small business, proud parent of 7 daughters. And when I ran for the school board back in 2005, I wanted to bring, a business perspective to education. Why can't education be more like a business? You've heard that in the past. I realized our kids are not witches. I realized that our parents often send us raw material that isn't exactly ready for prime time. But still, there's a need, in my opinion, to have some business practices in education. I remember that during the campaign, I was often accused of having an agenda. I thought it was a compliment. You're running an agenda. I want to have accountability. I want to have transparency, rising test scores, people engaged, increase our character education. So I thought that was a good thing to have. Well, when I got on the board, I started asking some questions. How come we're not doing surveys of our parents, of our staff, of our students? And the looks I got, I thought I was from Mars. And it says, surveys. And so I just didn't understand, some of those things. Well, in my 3rd year on the board, our previous superintendent knew someone named Quinn Studer. And he says, Bill, why don't you come to a training session with us in Florida? I'm thinking, another education seminar. I think I'm busy that week. But I went anyway, and I got his book, Results at Last. And I went to this training called TYYO that was held in Pensacola. And it just all started sinking in. I wanted to yell out, "Amen, brother!" and I'm a Lutheran, so we don't do that kind of stuff. So we get that all excited about doing these things, and our board then voted 9-0 to adopt these things. Now, for us, a 9-0 vote doesn't always happen except for like the consent agenda. So this kind of buy-in. And we learned a bunch of things at the meeting. We're just going to talk on a couple of them. And as we've been progressing here, I now have to probably honestly say that perhaps my small business ought to be run more like education. Because there are some things that a business can do that we're much smaller, 10 people versus over 1,000, but we can do better in my small business that I own. Well, in my opinion, the main purpose of a board of education is threefold. To charter the course, to set the main goals, to hire one person, mainly their superintendent, and to evaluate their performance. We do many things besides that, but when you come down to it, that's kind of the main area we're at. Well, our previous methods of measurement perhaps looks familiar to you. I'm sorry, where's the...
I'm sorry, Bill. I was waiting for a minute.
Right as forward, right?
Yes.
Okay. Nothing wrong with this goal. Determine level of staff and community awareness and comfort regarding health and safety, emphasis on school safety plans. Laudable goal. Did we meet it? I don't know. Sounds good. I mean, we couldn't measure what we did or didn't. Again, here, what gets measured gets done. So it's a wonderful goal, but we had no real way of measuring it. One of our goals for the superintendent starting point was simply to meet our expectations for our board goals. And then specifically, this was one of to increase minority staff recruitment. Janesville is a blue-collar town, traditionally mostly white, but now transitioning to more mixed culture. And we wanted to have leaders, principals, teachers, et cetera, that more could identify that our kids had a role model to look up to. Now, you've heard Janes before, home of a friend of mine named Paula Ryan. And she'll be speaking tonight, in case you And in Janesville, being a conservative is not easy to get elected. In that district, our governor, who's up for recall, lost by 20 points. And so, my first election, I won by a resounding victory of 5 votes. Much more comfortable since that time. But what we're going to talk about is how we've now changed these kind of goals into more measurable ones. And so, you can't read this, and Karen will go into some more detail, but we're going to fill it across the top and actual written goals and numbers to go with it and how we measure them. And I can tell you that when it came time to hire a new superintendent, this board member had really one criteria, and that was, is this journey we started going to be embraced and continued by the next superintendent? Being accountable to be held to standards and measurements, if you're not used to that, isn't exactly what everybody wants to go to, because now things are a different environment. And so we were very proud that Karen was with us before she served as Director of Student Services, and therefore was already involved in this process. Our very first trip down to Pensacola back in '07. And in fact, that she was willing to engage this and go with this is why she got my support to be superintendent. So Karen's now going to talk about individual goals and how we measure those. So please welcome my